Welcome to the Yoga Voice, a podcast by Cityoga, School of Yoga and Health. Our guests discuss how the contemporary practice of this ancient art transforms the lives of individuals and communities in the Midwest and beyond. Cityoga has been a center for the practice of yoga and yoga teacher training since opening in 2002. Join us as we explore how yoga inspires and transforms.
Hi, Dave Sims here at the Yoga Voice. I will be your host today as I speak with Marsha Pappas. Marsha is a longtime yoga teacher here in Indianapolis and Central Indiana. She's also a somatic practitioner. She's done a lot of training and study on reducing stress. She's actually the creator of the yoga teacher training program at Cityoga. She brought the 200-hour teacher training to Cityoga in 2003 and has been teaching 2 semesters every year since, sometimes 3 actually. And we were going to talk with her today about what inspires her in yoga, a little bit about her yoga journey. We'll touch on some of the yogic concepts like samskara and what that means to really transform and evolve through a yoga practice. So thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoy. Hi, Marsha.
Hi, Dave.
So great to have you here at the Yoga Voice.
Good to be here.
Once again, here we are having a conversation.
Yes, we are.
Yeah. So, I always like to start out by asking people, what is inspiring you today?
Oh, my. About yoga, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Actually, I've been thinking about this a little lately. I'm just really kind of exploring this whole idea of bringing it into my absolute every moment of my life. So it's what I realize that shows up all the time in interactions with other people. And this idea that, am I being as present as I can be with this person? And realizing when I'm not, and then being okay with saying, excuse me, I was gone for a minute there. Can we start over? Or what did you say? Instead of pretending I heard or pretending I was there.
Right.
Because the energy, then it just drops because they can sense it. And then it just feels like, ooh, get me out of here. I don't like who I'm being right now or whatever. So just to be really connecting with people. And I think that just came from years of, learning the philosophy and doing all this. And a lot is the teacher training, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't think if I were just teaching my classes, I would have the opportunity to explore the deeper dimensions as I get to do every Tuesday with you.
Yay.
Here at Cityoga. And, it's always different people, so different things come up and, just showing up and holding space for that and watching people process these concepts. And then you're always going, ooh, I'm not that good at that one, or, ooh, I better check in with that stuff. And then I get into reading something and then, light bulb moments come into play and, it's just the whole process.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that means I'm being inspired, although I think of inspiration as being real, being with spirit, realizing there's more to this world than what we're seeing with our eyes and hearing with our ears and all that. So just checking in.
Yeah. No, that's good. And for those out there listening that may not be familiar with Cityoga School of Yoga and Health, we run a 200-hour teacher training twice a year, and it's 21 weeks that Marsha and I meet with our group for 5 hours on Tuesday nights. And then, of course, there's weekend intensives and all that. But we do spend a lot of time really rehashing and digging deeper into these concepts and I think you're right. It does make us, it makes me look at my own life and how am I living my yoga and all these little aspects of it that is like, oh, I forgot about that.
Exactly.
And like there's the yamas and niyamas are just like tip of the iceberg, but how often do we forget about different parts of them?
Yeah. Because I've talked to other teachers that have been teaching for years and realizing that they don't have to talk about that stuff every class. They don't do that. but we're kind of forced to. So it's that, teach what you need to learn. I'm like, ooh, I must really need to learn because I'm constantly having this in my face, and it's great.
Yeah.
It's a privilege, but you don't get away with much, because it's like you got to keep it clean, know. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's very cool.
I know.
So another thing I'd like to ask would be, and I know people would love to hear about your yoga journey.
Oh, yes. It's
so
exciting.
What happened, and then...
Oh, God.
And a little bit of how you were before yoga, and a little bit of how, that all happened, and what you're like today, which you've already touched on. So.
Yeah. I don't have a dramatic story here, but I have been doing yoga for a long time before it was popular. I started when I was 17 in front of the television, and I've told this part of my story because I was introduced to yoga by a woman, Lilias Folan, who did a show called Lilias Yoga and You, and it was a little black and white program on PBS, and you'd get on the floor and do yoga with her, and she was so sweet and so lovely, and I was very, very insecure about who I was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of body image issues, as a lot of girls do at that age. So it really helped me get back in my body in a way that was healthy, instead of what other people were thinking of it, or that it wasn't as cute as it could be, but it was how it felt to move in my body and inhabit my body in that way with no self-consciousness at all. So it just felt really good. I didn't think about it. Oh, this is great for my self-esteem. I'm going to do this. It's like no one I knew was doing yoga. It wasn't popular. So I just kind of thought it was cool. Right.
This was in Chicago, right?
Yeah, in Chicago. Okay, yeah. And after that, I got a couple books that were really difficult to find. I had to send in for a book through her program, actually, because yoga was not popular. There was no internet. Now that's how old I am.
Yeah.
No internet.
Yeah.
So where do you go? So, over time, studios would pop up. And then I moved to California, and I took classes there because they were more readily available in California. And then I really still didn't get into the philosophy a whole lot. I mean, it was just really basic, just the asana, which the breathing, the asana, the meditation, hatha yoga. And then I decided years later, I mean, there's a lot of story in between, I guess, life.
Yeah.
I was in and out of it. And so I decided I would like to teach. And I took a training with a Iyengar teacher, which was the popular style then, Iyengar, which I think I appreciate now that I went through that whole thing. But weekend workshops, teacher trainings without being, going towards certification, just teacher trainings.
Yeah.
And then finally I got more serious about it, and I got myself certified. So I taught before I was certified. It wasn't a big deal then. There was no Yoga Alliance. So you just, you want to share your yoga, you do a class. So I started teaching at this church, and I was hooked because it was an older group of women, church ladies, and one of them was 86 years old, and she couldn't even get up and off the floor for class, so I stuck her in a chair next to me, not knowing what to do with her, and she did all her yoga in the chair. And the cool thing that happened was within weeks, she was able to take off her back brace.
Oh, wow.
Which is liberating, So it's like I got to see the power of this practice, even when it was super, super easy, right, and gentle. And so I did get certified with Swami Satchidananda.
Yeah.
Which was, divine intervention there, because he was just the right teacher for me. He keeps things very simple, very practical, and he's got a very silly sense of humor. So I did my training, and I came back to Indy, and I started teaching at the YMCA.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And from there, it just grew. Madonna went on Oprah.
Yeah.
And told everybody that she only did yoga now. And the phone started ringing at the Y. Do you have yoga? Yes. Well, I went from having one class to 3 classes with like 30 people per class. And it was like, they said to me, if you get 3 people, you can have a class. We've tried yoga here before, but it didn't really go well. So, wow, right? So I was in the right place at the right time. Because at the time, there were probably only 5, 6 yoga teachers in town.
Wow.
Yeah. And then it just went crazy.
And it's still
growing.
Still is growing.
Yeah. I was just telling the girls last night, we always use the analogy of, all these teachers, how can, I'm like, oh no, we're not coming, it's not a lack thing going on here. That pie keeps getting bigger and people start being more creative with where they can take the yoga. That's kind of one of the fun things about the training is watching people kind of go, oh, I could take this to my work, or, oh, I could take this to my son's school, or, oh, I would love to teach a class where I go for dance classes or, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, and we see that really, especially in the Indianapolis market in the last 5 years, where every school wants yoga. So many more employers want yoga.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just this whole range. I mean, every fitness center. I mean,
right.
You're right. It continues to get bigger and bigger. And then every time you see a new business pop up and that's going to be a customer, especially these small to medium-sized companies.
Oh, yeah. They're the best.
Yeah.
Because the boss actually knows his employees and he cares about them. And again, because my focus has been on stress. I'm like, this helps release stress. It's designed to do that. Yeah. All the sutras and the philosophy talks about releasing suffering. Well, what is stress but suffering? It's just another word for it, right? So people get it. And this world needs it right now more than probably ever, right?
At least in a good long while, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So.
Well, that's kind of a good segue into something I wanted to read.
I'm glad I could be of service.
Yeah. So this is just a little paragraph from the Heart of Yoga, which we know so well from our teacher training adventures. So I just wanted to read you where he's talking about samskara, really. It says, very often it is the mind that decides where our attention is directed. It does this because it is so conditioned to do so. The conditioning of the mind that lets it continually take the same direction is called samskara. Samskara is the sum total of all actions that conditions us to behave in a certain way. Samskara may be positive or negative. Through yoga, we attempt to create new and positive samskara rather than reinforcing the old samskara that has been limiting us. When this new samskara is strong and powerful enough, then the old distressing samskara will no longer be able to affect us. You could say we then begin to completely live new life. When the new behavior patterns become stronger, the old ones become ineffectual. And I thought that really summed up a lot of things that we talk about in yoga. And I guess my question for you would be, is that creating new positive patterns of thought or samskara, do you feel like that's really one of the true powers of yoga?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Everything we do in yoga is to bring what is happening on the unconscious or subconscious level into consciousness so that we can make better choices, so that we can change what is not working, right? So through repetition over the years, we get into these ruts and we have this kind of default mode that our brain goes into, and we keep doing the same things over and over and over again. And that idea of, what's insanity, doing the same thing over and over and thinking you're getting a different result.
Right.
Well, in yoga, it starts through the body. Mm-hmm. We have patterns in the way we move and the way we sit in our chair every day and things we do with our bodies. And so we have tension locked up in certain areas, which means the rest of the body has to compensate for that. And it's happening